Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, mindset mentor and founder of the Awakened Goddess Academy. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Hey, I'm your host, Angela Wilkinson, and welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. Yols Swan is a spiritual counselor, mentor, and modern seer who perceives life as energy and is sensitive to other dimensions. She shares her journey and profound insights in her new book, The Indigo Journals, Spiritual Healing for Indigo Adults and Other Feminine Souls, where she presents an in-depth view of the wounded feminine and indigo archetype, as well as her spiritual healing system to help feminine souls unlock their hidden power, discover their purpose, and balance an overly masculine world to bring in a new cosmic cycle of light. Today, Yoel and I talk about the key characteristics of indigos, how to navigate life with energy sensitivity, and what practical steps you can take to reconnect with the feminine and heal soul wounds from the inside out. But before I talk with Yoel, are you ready to ditch dating drama and stop struggling to find love? Join me for the Love Spark Love Mastery program, where I'll guide you through 5 powerful steps to get clear, get prepared, and get confident to meet the one and get your happily ever after. For more information about the program, go to theawakenedgoddess.com/love-spark. That's again, theawakenedgoddess.com/love-spark. And now let's talk to Yoel. So welcome, Yoel, to the Awakened Goddess Show. I am super happy and thrilled to have you joining me today to talk about indigos and all of the things and the qualities that come with being an indigo. So welcome.
Thank you, Angela, for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, yay. So first off, why don't you, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about indigo children, but let's talk about what exactly that means, because from what you say, anybody can be an indigo. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are many more indigos out there, and indigo adults that are not aware that they're indigos, and they just feel out of place and disconnected and don't know how. Or why. They just feel like they're flawed or something. Mm-hmm. And so, the purpose of the book is to make more people aware of not just the indigos, but also the different soul types out there that make connecting and understanding each other and interacting much more challenging, because we don't, we think, well, why is this happening? Why can't this person see things the way I do? And so on. Mm-hmm. So let me say that I always describe indigo adults as highly sensitive, creative, and empathic visionaries that feel like the ugly duckling in the world. And this is because they're very sensitive, emotionally and otherwise, sensitive to the environment, to chemicals, to foods, and so on. They're also very receptive and intuitive because they're feminine souls, and have a strong sense of purpose, like they're here to do something. And if they can't find that purpose, we feel miserable. That's one of the main features that distinguishes indigos from other feminine souls. We need to have a purpose, even if it's short term. We also have this non-cognitive perception. There's more like a spherical perception of things. And of course, in a linear, logical, masculine world and environment, like in education and other places, that does not work. It's like it creates an internal short circuit for a lot of indigos, starting in school, of course. The traditional educational systems do not work very well for indigos. We're also very bound to the truth and freedom oriented, and so we can be controlled. You know,
Yes, that's me.
yeah, I know. Indigos are like warrior type of souls, but feminine. So we are spiritual warriors. We're not promoting war in any way. That goes against our inner wiring. But warriors in the sense that we like to take charge and lead, and have a lot of creative energy, and we want to put that into place, into practical form and physical form. And so we don't like to be stopped or stalled or manipulated or directed in any way. We want to be ourselves and express ourselves fully. So that's a big thing. And in children, it also shows because they don't want to be controlled. They don't want to be taught. They don't want to be told what to do and how. They want to discover that themselves, and in the process discover themselves as well. Be able to express fully who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Another aspect that all in feminine souls share is that we're very empathic and connected to animals and nature. So the destruction of Mother Earth hurt us like immensely. We feel the pain of the world, and so this is one of the reasons why indigo adults, because in the process between childhood and adulthood, we still can manage and navigate life. But when we become adults and have to take responsibility and deal with all sorts of challenges, these things come up to the surface, and so we may feel prone to escape somehow or disconnect. There's a lot of anxiety and depression going on around, through feminine souls of all ages. And indigos, of course, are no exception. And that's because we feel that. We're so empathic that we feel the pain of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a few other features, like we're drawn to spiritual subjects or metaphysical subjects early on, or spirituality is actually a big issue for us. Mm-hmm. We either go against our family, traditions, or we feel that there's not enough spiritual context when we grow up, and then we go seeking for that. It's a very strong impulse as well to seek for that that sense of connection with ourselves, that love, that light that all souls share.
Mm-hmm. So, what are the other feminine soul types? Because you said.
Yeah, there's a variety of feminine soul types, and in the book I explore this in more detail because I discover this feminine masculine soul spectrum that to me made a lot of sense and finally explained a lot of things that I didn't understand before. And so the feminine souls that have been coming through this cosmic cycle, that is a dark cycle, a masculine cycle, have been souls that in some way have promoted the wounded feminine because, it was their purpose, their function. Mm-hmm. Every soul has a function. Every soul type, I should say, has a function. And of course, all feminine souls are going to tend towards the receptive aspects, and all masculine souls are going to tend towards the more active and logical aspects. But within those two, I guess, categories, or between that whole spectrum, there are different types. The most common ones that we see in the world are the mother type, the lover type, like the Venus kind of type, the the recluse type. Those are all the enlightened teachers and spiritual teachers that choose to, disconnect from the world and just focus on sharing that loving energy. And then the child type, the wounded child type, those are the most common ones. And we see that in the archetypes, the goddess archetypes in the West portray that very clearly. And then, of course, there are some other feminine souls that are more empowered in themselves. They already come with more clarity and empowered, but they're still wounded. Indigos are one of those. But wounded, they just react with resentment and indignation. And, like, I want to do something, I don't know what to do. I feel very powerless, and that makes me very frustrated. So I disconnect. I disconnect from myself, and I disconnect from the world. And then there are newer soul types in the sense that they're being recognized recently. I don't think they're actually new, but they're recognized. And so they tend to be more feminine, less warrior type, more forgiving, more flexible, more receptive as well. So they tend more towards the feminine, but not necessarily wounded. They speak their mind. They stand for themselves, better. And they're here to teach their parents and teachers and authorities how to think differently and perceive the world differently. So the indigos are like a transition kind of type from the very wounded to a more empowered, but still feminine, compassion, connected, creating love and community type of soul.
So how did you learn that you were an indigo?
Well, it took me quite a while. I always felt out of place and very curious about who I was and what I wanted and what was my purpose here. That was, from a very early age. And I was not happy with my life and my relationships because I found very challenging to really encounter people that I saw eye to eye with, that really understood what I was perceiving. I see life as energy, so everything is energy to me, and of course, not everybody, especially back then, not everybody spoke the language and didn't even understand what I was talking about. So of course, I felt out of place, and eventually started seeking the answers for myself. So first, I spent many years in psychotherapy, trying to figure out why, why things were the way they were, why my relationships were a disaster, and so on. And after 7 years or so, that kind of launched me into a deeper exploration of consciousness, and I decided to go in to a 3-year personal retreat in almost complete isolation, and really delve into myself, my motivations, and really understand energy and how I could manage and master that. And from there, life left me with many encounters with enlightened teachers from both the Buddhist and Hindu traditions. So I follow spiritual path for many, many years. But even after all of that, I still felt like there was something missing, a piece missing. I had a spiritual family and a lot of teachings and a lot of understanding, really deep knowledge of the mind and the psyche, but I still felt out of place. And so after, a long, difficult, somewhat difficult marriage, but also a very enjoyable aspect of my life as a mother, I went into always kept looking, searching, seeking that piece that was missing.
Mm-hmm.
And it came, of course, through a grieving process when my marriage fell apart. And that's when I realized that not only I was an indigo, but I was an indigo expressing the wounded feminine on the planet. And that's what led me to the soul spectrum that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. It's like it was not just a label, it was not just a category, but it was really this vision and remembrance of things, of life in Atlantis, and beyond that, before that, and all this, this clarity about this is how we came to create this mess. This is where we're coming from. This is what you're here to do. This is what we need to start doing together, connected to each other, and not in codependent dynamics, but in really creative cooperation with each other, with that understanding. So yeah, it took me a long time, and one of the purposes of the book is precisely to help others mm-hmm. recognize themselves sooner, without having to go through all the trouble and pain and grief, and feel more empowered, and join into join the spiritual revolution that we're going through, which is very quiet and subtle, but also very powerful and unstoppable.
Yeah. So in what you've seen, do you see a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs as indigos?
Yes, because like I said, one of the main features of indigos is that we need a goal, purpose. That's the masculine quality. I forgot to mention. Indigos are like in the middle of that soul spectrum. So we're very feminine, receptive, intuitive, compassionate, love-oriented, but we have certain masculine qualities mm-hmm. that make us more, bound to the truth and goal-oriented, and we need to have the clarity of purpose and understand things. We can't just take things at face value. We really need to understand what we're doing and why, and so on. And so, so one of those qualities is precisely to have a purpose, to do something with the knowledge and the gifts and the perception that we have, that we get. So we need to bring that into reality somehow, mm-hmm. to make it into a physical, tangible something. And so a lot of entrepreneurs, we're going to see more and more people becoming entrepreneur and more feminine kind of entrepreneurs because of that. We're here to share our experience, our knowledge, our gifts, everything that we've accumulated for thousands of years, actually, and help, shift the things and move the things in a different direction, which is a feminine cosmic cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would love for you to talk more about that, because for myself, I took your questionnaire, and you guys, the listeners and viewers, will be able to download that and be able to take Yols' questionnaire to determine if you are also indigo. But I've struggled all my life with the masculine and the feminine. I've definitely had that warrior energy coming in, and to balance that and not always want to feel like I'm in control. It's like there's that drive, but then there's also the part of me that knows that I am a feminine woman, and so that's been a real challenge for me to kind of work through that and become more comfortable with the feminine. So can you talk about that?
Well, yes, because the feminine has become so wounded, so devalued, and that's been happening increasingly for thousands of years. Well, to heal the feminine soul requires great self-awareness, self-discipline, and creative focus, something that anchors you in yourself and connects you to yourself. Because otherwise, it's really hard to transcend, to overcome the negative tendencies that we see in the world. Because we're individual souls, but we're also part of a collective unconscious that carries a lot of energy, and so it requires a lot of commitment and effort to focus our creative energy into what makes us feel good about ourselves and makes us feel that we're also contributing to a better world. And because the world is so excessively masculine, all the masculine aspects that we need to develop to be in the world and accomplish things get exacerbated. And so we can be easily swayed into a direction that goes against our nature, like follow a very masculine business model or type of activities, like the corporate type, that's very masculine, very compartmentalized and structured, and it's like a pyramid. So it's easy to go in that direction. But what's happening now also is that a lot of those people are realizing, well, yeah, I'm making a lot of money and I'm doing all these big things and I manage lots of people and blah, 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 but I don't feel happy. I don't feel myself. I'm not, I don't know why I'm doing this. I just follow one track and then, woke up one morning questioning, is this what I really want to do? Is this how I want to live the rest of my life? And so a lot of people are going to start, they already started, turning around and questioning that and bringing that experience to kind of tip the scales and create more feminine types of businesses where there's more balance. We still have to have a presence in the world. We can't just, run to the cave and forget about it, although unless that's your true calling, right? But it's not for most people because we still have a lot of karma and a lot of mess to clean up. So we need to create a different way of doing things, of parenting, of teaching, of doing business, of relating to each other, of being in relationship, being in marriage, or being not in marriage, divorcing. All of those things, we need to create new ways of doing those things that are more balanced, so that they still have the impulse, the discipline, the perseverance, and the clarity that come from the masculine, but they need to be more flexible, more fluid, more receptive, more compassionate, more embracing, that comes from the feminine. The wounded feminine has turned into a very kind of subservient, passive way of being, that we see in feminine souls, and of course women, because we carry, a triple dose of feminine. And so that needs to be balanced with more clarity and determination and commitment to make things better and to stand up for ourselves and express who we are with love, but firmness, with clarity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems like a really big piece for women, is really being able to speak their truth and not try to make other people happy or placate others. So yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. So you seems like that you have found a connection, that this disconnection from the feminine really started back in, what was it, Atlantis?
Yes, during the Fall of Atlantis. Atlantis was a time when a lot of soul types came to experience, this feminine reality. I mean, this physical reality in this beautiful planet, and so there was a mixture, just like we see a mixture today. It's the same mixture, except that back then we had a little more of a higher souls, higher masters that were in charge. But anyway, it's a long story.
It's amazing really how we can go backwards, right?
Yeah, you really need to read the book to learn about that. But in it's basically we rebelled, motivated by certain soul types that I call martial souls that are still in control and in charge of the world right now. So we rebelled, and in that process, we disconnected from the Galactic Federation and many other planets that we were connected to, because this was a hub, and so we had a lot more connection back then to ourselves, to the planet, to the universe, to our galaxy, and to our places of origin as well, because we were channeling those frequencies here, and so we rebelled. We separated from that. We were allowed to take charge of the planet and kind of lead the experiment. But of course, those who were really in charge, who had convinced the rest of us and manipulated us into rebelling, were trying to control the mind, the human mind, the collective mind, and in that process, they blew up the whole thing, and so there was a crack in one of the sublayers of the Earth that allowed many negative entities to come and be here, take part of this. And what happens basically was that we disconnected from the lunar energies, the feminine energies, and we sunk into third dimension. And from there, we had to start from scratch, which is what we have been doing for thousands of years. And now we're going back to reconnect finally to the fifth dimension, which was the original dimension we were in. But of course, this fall left deep DNA imprints. And those are patterns that we have been repeating over and over, that are very disempowering, that have kept us, most of us, feeling powerless, and the few soul types in charge still controlling and having the power, and of course continuing the experiment in their own terms, which is basically making everyone a lab rat, and the Earth their lab. Yeah. It's pretty sad. But anyway, it's coming to an end, because we've reached the extreme of masculinity. So now we're turning around. We're going towards a feminine cosmic cycle. We're going to a new astrological cycle, the age of Aquarius. And we're also moving into fifth dimension again. So we're seeing everything crumble around us, and everything be reaching that extreme density and extreme suffering, extreme darkness, because we're ready to turn around and bring a new perception, a new way of being, a new way of doing things, to move towards the light. And those who are in charge, in control, of course, are doing absolutely everything they can to stop and prevent that from happening. But it's unstoppable. It's a divine plan. It's not a human plan, thank goodness. So it's happening. Yeah. It's slow. It's a slow process, but it's definitely happening. And I think we can all see that things are changing, and pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's like even if we're not consciously aware of it, there's like that unconscious or subconscious undertone that we can feel, that there is definitely a shift happening. We may not know exactly what it is, but it's interesting to watch, and I think that's the beauty of it happening so slowly, is that it gives us a chance to acclimate, so we don't just like get fried trying to switch so quickly.
Yeah, and also participate, because it all comes from our own self-awareness and our own emotional effort to master our life, our mind, and direct our creative energy in that direction.
So you talk about the self-defeating patterns. You mentioned that earlier. Are there some specifics that you can mention? Like give us some like really concrete examples of what that looks like.
Yeah, that looks like not being happy where you are, wanting some change, wanting some transformation, something, that you desire, going for that. And then feeling the impulse to pursue that. And the energy from the past that you carry with you, it's this huge, fat, thick trail of energy that also permeates, the layers of your soul, and especially the mind, the ego mind, that comes and gets in the way. Mm-hmm. And so it creates obstacles, it creates situations that require your attention, that distract you, that sway you into doing something else, following a different path. And so you stall the process, you stop, you feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, because since the doors are not open, that means, it's not meant to be or something. And if you have the courage and determination to go past that, you're going to find that there are more and more obstacles that get along the way. And these are obstacles created by our own resistance to change that comes from those deep imprints from the past that are guilt and fear. And so guilt and fear have become the emotional currencies in the world. If you really pay attention, and I discovered this after my 3-year retreat in isolation, coming out in the world, and I was like, wow, this is how we relate. Mm-hmm. We're always exchanging that. It's amazing. We're always exchanging the guilt, like, oh, if you don't do what I want, then you don't love me, and if I don't do what you want, I think, you're not going to love me. Or the fear, oh, if you don't do this is going to happen. And so these are imprints that we carry from that fall, because we felt very guilty, very responsible for what happened. And at the same time, if you can imagine, the panic, the terror of things blowing up and everything falling and crawling and, getting destroyed, we carry that within us. Mm-hmm. And of course, masculine souls in control have manipulated that left and right. They still do everywhere, that those currencies permeate that. So we remain kind of afraid to express who we are. And every time we take a step forward, we feel that something bad is going to happen, and we create that. So we create drama and obstacles and all that. And so we kind of tend to crawl back into our comfort zone and remain there until we feel, again, I'm unhappy, I need to do something about it. And it becomes this, loop that a lot of people remain in, feeling safe, feeling okay, feeling like, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but never feeling free to express and be who they really are. Yeah. And it requires a lot of courage and determination to step out of that and ride the wave of discomfort until you reach your goal.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, well, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm following my bliss, well, then everything should, fall into place and help me and support me.
Right.
But that's not the case, because we're here to break those patterns and really be free, reach that spiritual and emotional freedom to be who we are and accomplish what we want to accomplish from a deeper place, from a more centered and empowered place.
Yeah. Whew, we got a job to do, right?
Oh, yeah.
Work through that and stepping out of that comfort zone, because, oh boy, it is so comfortable. And it's like when you step out, it's like that fear, like you're talking about, comes up. And so it sounds like it's a process of us really getting in touch with who we are, and then just keep stepping outside of that comfort zone.
Yeah, stretching a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. But the moment you stop stretching, you slide back, because the patterns are, carry a lot of energy. They just pull you back into the past. That's what the ego mind does. It keeps you in the past, emotionally speaking. And that emotional kind of mismatch with the other aspects of yourself keeps you feeling disconnected and vulnerable and, like a wounded child. And so we're here to learn to embrace everything we are and take full spiritual responsibility for the reality we create, because it's not separate from us. It comes from our self-perception.
Yeah. So how do we step into this and really, for each of our own selves, have heal this connection with the feminine, and what steps can we take to help this process, not for ourselves only, but for the collective?
Well, I give a series of tools and steps in the book. The main aspects would be, first, to ground ourselves in the body and in the earth, because when we're not grounded, it's like floating in space with nothing to hold on to, so right? And it scatters your energy, all, and makes you feel anxious, overwhelmed, stressed, you name it. And the only people who benefit from that are those who are in power or want to have power over you. Yeah. Even your relationships, I'm talking about.
And I'm glad you bring that up, because I think of, really the only time I can step out of my comfort zone is when I really do intentionally ground, because otherwise it's like so overwhelming, and I feel the fear or the anxiety or whatever. So it's like a constant keep grounding myself to be able to do that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
That's very important. You ground yourself, and you ground yourself in, like I said, in the body, that's your home, and the earth, because your body is made of the earth, and the physical body lives only in the present. So grounding yourself in the body, especially through your breathing and other, methods, brings you to the present moment. So you're not so trapped or enslaved by the past, all the impressions and tendencies and patterns from the past. So that's number one, very important. I give a series of tools to ground yourself and be connected to your present, to this home of yours, this vehicle of yours that is the body. And then, of course, looking within and recognizing who you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, everything, and embracing it with absolute honesty and compassion and love, because all the receptive qualities that we have make us when they make us feel very vulnerable, right? Like we have to please others. We have to, fulfill their expectations. We have to be liked and loved and appreciated and, useful and responsible and all that. And in that process, we forget to take care of ourselves. Right. We kind of leave ourselves out of the equation of love. And then we wonder, why am I not happy? Why am I not finding love in the world? Well, because I'm always, closing the door to myself while I give it to everyone else. And so it's that looking within, recognizing that even those aspects that we don't consider very positive are there for a reason, and we need to look at them and embrace them and then utilize them, to shift into more positive. All the wounds that we carry from the past, which are many and deep, need healing, and nobody's going to heal those for us. We tend to believe, and of course, the world promotes that illusion that we can heal our wounds through others. That if someone loves me, then I'm gonna, feel love for myself. Yeah. But that's just an illusion, right? Because it creates a lot of codependency, but not relationships and creative cooperation, which is what we're here to to create, really, to promote. And so we need to look at ourselves and heal all those aspects, the aspects that we have neglected for any reason, because they weren't loved by others, because they weren't appreciated, or they were rejected, or because we can judge them, we consider them inappropriate or something. And so we need to look at all that and integrate all those pieces, all those what I call energy holes, because our energy leaks through them. Mm-hmm. And so we don't feel whole, we don't feel empowered, connected, because, we were like Swiss cheese walking around trying to accomplish something with not enough energy. And I mean energy, not just physical energy, but all kinds of energy, emotional energy, creative energy, spiritual energy, and mental energy. We need a lot of energy to feel good about ourselves, connected, and then accomplish things. And then we also need to take care of the spiritual aspects. If we don't have something that anchors us in the center of ourselves, we cannot find that center in ourselves that is of a spiritual nature, then it's really hard to not get swayed and, follow someone else's direction or do what someone else is expecting.
Right.
We need to have that anchor. And for me, the most, pleasant, enjoyable way of doing that is through a creative endeavor. So anything that's creative, that we enjoy, right? So that anchors, so that it makes the whole world disappear, and we are totally focused on what we're doing. That's what gives us a clearer sense of where we end and others begin. So where our energy ends, what's ours, and what we have been carrying or absorbing from the environment. So it gives us those energy boundaries that we need. And then from there, it's much easier to step into the spiritual layer of the soul, where we can meditate and transcend all of this and transcend our little ego mind that always wants to be in control, but also separates us from everything else. So it's basically the process of grounding, focusing the energy, looking within, and integrating the past with the present, understanding that our present is always a projection of the past. And so whether we invest more of our energy into this to create more of the same, or we shift, it's really our choice. Nobody's going to do it for us.
Right.
And that's really taking spiritual responsibility, right? And then digging deeper, going deeper into the aspects that really empower us, which are spiritual aspects. They're not physical, and they're not masculine. They're feminine aspects from deeper layers of the soul. And when we tap into those and feel more connected to our soul, to the core of who we are, we can accomplish absolutely anything that we set our mind to.
Yeah.
So it's that process of integrating the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and the physical.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And this is all in your book, so.
Yeah, step by step, with a lot of insight and guidance and explanations as to why, of course, because I don't want you to just take things at face value. You have to understand where I'm coming from and what I'm talking about. And then following those steps, there's a series of exercises and things to do to start feeling more connected, more grounded, more empowered, more centered, and healing those emotional wounds that always pull you into the past.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And pull you, keep you in that little comfort zone.
Yeah, and the wounded child archetype, like in a temper tantrum, and also very sad, disappointed, wounded, because when we are children in this dysfunctional world, we have no voice, we have no choices, we have no control. We feel very, very powerless.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh, this was just like You gave such a wealth of information. I mean, I could just like talk to you for hours, but so how can the listeners and viewers connect with you?
Well, my main website is soulguidedcoach.com, and that's where I, offer a variety of services, spiritual counseling, conscious business coaching, energy healing, individual healing for indigos as well, and different programs. I'm launching this year a couple programs. One is Unlock Your Hidden Power for self-healing, abundance, and joy.
Lovely.
And the other one later on is Discover Your Life Purpose to experience and contribute your full potential. So one leads to the other, right? So I'm going to be launching that first one pretty soon, towards March, April. And also, if they want to connect with me, they can go to my website again, soulguidedcoach.com, subscribe to my newsletter, and that's the best way to stay in touch with me and, learn all about me and how I think, how I work with people, how I help them create a soul-guided life or a conscious business that goes with that. My book has also a site of its own, and it's theindigojournals.com.
Cool.
So they can also go there, check out. There's some samples, like the table of contents, the introduction. They can find things in there. There's a video that explains a little bit about it as well. And the book can be found on Amazon in print and as Kindle, digital version. And also digital versions at barnesandnoble.com and iTunes.
Excellent. Well,
but Amazon is the easiest. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely make sure to put links to all of those ways to connect to you on the show page. And so make it super easy. And you have a gift that you wanted to share. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, I'm sharing a feminine self-assessment questionnaire, which is an assessment that is going to help you figure out whether you are an indigo or how close you are to the indigo archetype, or if you're a soul in need of guidance and self-empowerment. It is basically going to help you clarify your qualities and where you're at in your healing and soul integration process. Because the book strongly encourages all feminine souls to embrace a healthy indigo archetype. And that means an archetype which I identify with Artemis or Diana, the goddess, because it's very feminine, but very self-empowered, goal-oriented, very connected to nature, very one in herself. So all feminine souls need to become one in themselves to really contribute all the gifts that they have to offer and that are so desperately needed to transform this world and shift into a much better place, higher consciousness, and of course cosmic femininity. So the self-assessment questionnaire helps you figure out where you're at.
Yeah.
And then of course I encourage everyone to read the book and learn more about it. It's really an in-depth view of the indigo archetype and the feminine soul in this wounded feminine world, and how to become self-empowered and autonomous, independent, free spiritually and emotionally to create a much more enjoyable and abundant life and a much more enjoyable and peaceful world as well.
Yeah. Well, just in our conversation and looking at your book, I personally know a lot of indigos. And so I'm definitely going to be sharing this with them because, this information is going to be just so helpful and transformational for their lives to really help them on their journey. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. And now for you, my gorgeous goddess. Was there something from the show that resonated with you? If so, I'd love to hear about it. Head on over to today's show page at theawakenedgoddess.com and leave me a comment. Did you enjoy this episode? If so, subscribe to the show on iTunes and please share it with all of your friends. And if you want even more incredible resources, join the Awakened Goddess community to get bonus content from the show. And until next time, goodbye everyone! Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I hope you enjoyed today's guest and got something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at theawakenedgoddess.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.